A girl is forcibly taken to a secret clinic, where they prepare her to remove her organs. Beute just before it happens, this occurs. The school bell rang, marking the end of another monotonous day for Sofia. At 12 years old, the school routine was tedious to her, but today something felt different. While she was putting her books in her backpack, her best friend Laura approached with a smile. "Sofia. Do you want to come to my house?" "My mom made cookies," exclaimed Laura, her eyes shining with excitement. Sofia hesitated for a moment. "I would love to, but I promised my mom that I would go straight home today. She has to work late and wants me to take care of my little brother." Laura pouted. "Ow, what a shame. Well, see you tomorrow then?" "Sure, see you tomorrow," Sofia replied, hugging her friend before leaving the classroom. The hallway was full of students eager to escape the building. Sofia made her way through the crowd, adjusting her backpack on her shoulders. As she exited, the cool afternoon air greeted her, carrying the scent of spring flowers. Sofia began her usual walk home, her thoughts wandering between pending tasks and weekend plans. She was so absorbed that she didn't notice the black car that started to follow her slowly. Turning the corner, Sofia found herself on an unusually empty street. A chill ran down her spine, and suddenly, the sound of quick footsteps behind her alerted her. Before she could react, a strong hand covered her mouth, stifling her scream. Another grabbed her by the waist, lifting her off the ground. MMPH. MMPH. Sofia tried to scream, kicking desperately. "Stay still, girl," a male voice growled in her ear. Sofia watched in horror as the black car approached. The rear door opened, and in seconds, she was thrown inside. The vehicle sped off with a screech of tires. "Help, please, someone help me!" Sofia screamed, pounding on the tinted windows. A woman in the front seat turned around, holding a syringe. "SHH, calm down. You will be asleep soon." Sofia felt a prick in her arm, and gradually, everything became blurry. Her eyelids grew heavy, and darkness enveloped her. A constant buzzing was the first thing Sofia perceived upon regaining consciousness. She opened her eyes slowly, blinking at the fluorescent light that flooded the room. The smell of disinfectant made her nauseous. Where am I?" she murmured, her voice hoarse and weak. She tried to move but found that her wrists and ankles were tied to a metal stretcher. Panic took hold of her. "Help! Someone help me!" Sofia screamed, struggling against her restraints. The door opened, and a man in a white coat entered, followed by two similarly dressed women. "Ah, our special patient has awakened," said the man, his voice cold and clinical. Sofia looked at him in terror. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The man smiled, but the gesture did not reach his eyes. "I am Dr. Mendez. You are in a very special clinic, Sofia. You will soon understand your purpose here." "My purpose? I don't understand. Please let me go." "My family must be looking for me," Sofia pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. One of the women approached, holding a syringe. "This will help you calm down." "No. Don't touch me!" Sofia screamed, writhing on the stretcher. Dr. Mendez gestured to the other woman. "Hold her." Sofia felt strong hands pinning down her arms as the needle approached. "Please, no. You want to go home?" "Sure, everything will be fine," the woman with the syringe murmured, injecting the liquid into Sofia's arm. Gradually, Sofia felt her body relaxing against her will. Her mind grew foggy, and the voices around her became distant. "Prepare her for the initial exams," Dr. Mendez ordered. Sofia fought to keep her eyes open, but the darkness claimed her once again. Dime lost all meaning for Sofia. She would wake up in different rooms, always surrounded by people in white coats and surgical masks. They asked her questions, took blood samples, and subjected her to strange exams. One day, while being transported from one room to another, Sofia heard a muffled cry coming from a nearby room. Her blood froze when she realized she wasn't the only child in this place. "What was that?" Sofia asked the nurse pushing her wheelchair. The woman clenched her jaw. "It's none of your concern." "But it sounded like another child," Sofia insisted. "I suggest you focus on your own situation," the nurse responded curtly. Sofia fell silent, but her mind raced. She had to find a way to escape, to help whoever was suffering in this place. That night, lying in her hospital bed, Sophia listened to voices in the hallway. "The procedure is scheduled for 3 days from now," said a male voice she recognized as Dr. Mendez. "Are you sure she's ready?" asked another voice. "The tests show that she is the perfect candidate." The buyer is anxious. Sophia held her breath, her heart pounding. Buyer? What were they talking about? "And what about the others?" the second voice continued. "We prepare them in the coming weeks. This is just the beginning." The footsteps faded away, leaving Sophia trembling under the sheets. She had to act, and soon. The next day, during her supervised recreation time, Sophia approached another girl who seemed to have been there for a long time. "Hi," Sophia whispered. "I'm Sophia. What's your name?" The girl looked at her with dull eyes. "Marta." "Marta, do you know what this place is? Why are we here?" Marta nervously glanced around before responding in a low voice. "It's a bad place. They do horrible things. I saw them take my friend Anna and she never came back." Sophia felt her stomach turn. "We have to get out of here." "It's impossible," Marta muttered. "Eve tried. There are guards everywhere." "There must be a way," Sophia insisted. "If we work together." "Time's up," yelled a voice. It was time to return to the rooms. As she was being guided back, Sophia noticed an ajar door. For a brief moment, she saw shelves full of files and a computer on. "What's in there?" she asked innocently. The nurse slammed the door shut. "Nothing that concerns you." What? That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. Her mind reviewed every detail, every conversation overheard, every face she had seen. There had to be a way to unravel the mystery of this place, to escape before it was too late. As she lay awake, she heard footsteps in the hallway. She got up silently and approached the door, pressing her ear to listen. "Tomorrow's procedure is critical," said a voice she recognized as Dr. Mendez. "We can't afford any mistakes." "Are you sure the girl is ready?" asked another voice. "Absolutely. We will run all the necessary tests. Her organs are perfect for transplantation." Sophia covered her mouth to stifle a scream. Transplantation? Were they going to take her organs? And what about her family? Won't they be looking for her? The second voice continued. Dr. Mendez laughed coldly. By the time anyone notices her absence, it will be too late. Besides, we have protection in high places. No one will ask questions. The footsteps faded away, leaving Sophia trembling with fear and rage. She now understood the gravity of her situation. Not only was her life in danger, but so were the lives of all the children in this hellish clinic. With renewed determination, Sophia began to plan. Tomorrow would be the day. Somehow, she had to get to that room with the files. There, she could find evidence, perhaps even a way to call for help. She lay down again, her mind working frantically. Tomorrow would be a decisive day. Either she found a way out, or she faced a fate worse than death. Morning came all too soon. Sophia had barely slept, her mind replaying the horrors she had discovered and the plan she had devised. The door to her room opened, and a nurse she hadn't seen before entered. "Good morning, Sophia," said the woman with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Today is a big day." Sophia sat up in bed, her heart pounding. What's going to happen today? The nurse began preparing a tray with medical instruments. "Oh, nothing to worry about. Used some routine exams. But I heard that they're going to do a transplant on me," Sophia said, carefully watching the nurse's reaction. The woman tensed for a moment, then forced another smile. "I don't know where you got that idea, but I assure you it's not true. Now, take this pill. It will help you relax." Sophia looked at the small white pill in the nurse's hand. She knew that if she took it, she would likely lose her chance to escape. "I have trouble swallowing pills," Sophia lied. "Could I have some water first?" The nurse sighed impatiently. "Fine, but hurry up. Dr. Mendez will be here soon." While the nurse turned to get a glass of water, Sophia acted quickly. She jumped off the bed and ran towards the door. "Hey! Come back here," the nurse yelled. Sophia ran down the hallway, her heart pounding. She could hear the shouts and footsteps behind her, but she didn't dare look back. She turned a corner and saw the door she had noticed before, the one that led to the room with the files. Without thinking twice, Sophia opened the door and slipped inside, closing it behind her. To her surprise, the room was empty. Quickly, she pushed a file cabinet against the door to block it. "Open the door right now," yelled a voice from the other side, pounding furiously. Sophia ignored the shouts and headed for the computer that was on. Her hands shook as she navigated through the files, searching for something, anything that could help her. Come on," she murmured to herself. Suddenly, a folder caught her attention, patient records. She opened it and gasped when she saw a list of names, ages, and organs extracted. "This can't be," Sophia whispered, the horror growing inside her. As she kept searching, she found another file titled Contacts. She opened it, her eyes widening at the list of prominent names, politicians, businessmen, even some celebrities. "What is all this?" she wondered aloud. The sound of the door being pounded harder snapped her out of her trance. She knew she didn't have much time. With trembling hands, Sophia searched through the desk drawers, hoping to find something she could use as evidence. In the bottom of a drawer, she found a small USB device. Without thinking twice, she plugged it into the computer and began copying all the files she could. Last warning. "Open the door or we'll break it down," yelled a male voice. Sophia knew her time was running out. As the files copied, her eyes landed on a small window in the corner of the room. It was her only hope. Just as the copy completed, the door began to give way. Sophia ripped the USB out of the computer and ran to the window. "We've got you," yelled Dr. Mendez as he burst into the room. But Sophia was already at the window. Without a second thought, she jumped. The cold night air hit her as she fell. Luckily, they were only on the second floor, and she landed on some bushes that cushioned her fall. "There she is." "Get here," yelled a voice from above. Sophia got up, ignoring the pain in her scratched legs and arms. She ran into the darkness, her heart pounding so hard she thought it would burst out of her chest. She could hear footsteps and shouts behind her. The lights from flashlights danced in the dark, getting closer and closer. "She can't have gone far," someone shouted. "Check the perimeter." Sophia hid behind a large tree, trying to control her ragged breathing. She looked around, desperately searching for a way out. That's when she saw a small opening in the fence surrounding the property. Without hesitation, she crawled towards it. "I think I saw her." "Over there," yelled a nearby voice. Sophia froze for a moment, but then forced herself to move. She crawled through the opening, feeling the wires tear at her clothes and scratch her skin. Once on the other side, she found herself on a dark, deserted street. She had no idea where she was, but she knew she had to keep moving. She ran down the street, her bare feet slapping against the cold pavement. She could hear sirens in the distance and prayed that they were the police and not more people from the clinic. After what felt like an eternity, Sophia saw the lights of a gas station. With the last of her strength, she ran towards it. The gas station attendant was closing up when he saw Sophia approaching. His eyes widened at the sight of the dirty, bloody, gasping girl. "My God! What happened to you?" the man exclaimed, running towards her. Sophia could barely speak between gasps. "Please, help, they kidnapped me, clinic, they want my organs." The attendant looked at her, confused and scared. "What? What are you talking about?" "Please," Sophia begged, pulling the USB out of her pocket. "Call the police. Here is the evidence." At that moment, the screech of tires was heard. A black car pulled up sharply in front of the gas station. "There she is," yelled a voice from the car. "Grab her." The attendant, seeing the situation, acted quickly. He grabbed Sophia and pushed her inside the store, locking the door. "Hide," he told her, as he pulled out his phone to call the police. Sophia crawled behind the counter, trembling with fear and exhaustion. She could hear the pounding on the door and the threatening shouts. "Open the door right now," yelled a voice that Sophia recognized as Dr. Mendez. "That girl is an escaped mental patient. She's dangerous." The attendant, however, did not budge. "The police are on their way. Step back, or I'll charge you with trespassing." Sophia closed her eyes tightly, praying that help would arrive soon. The minutes passed like hours, with the shouting and threats continuing outside. Finally, sirens were heard approaching. The shouts turned to curses and then to the sound of a car speeding away. Are you okay? The attendant asked, crouching down to see Sophia. She nodded weakly, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thank you for saving me. Moments later, the store was filled with police officers. Sophia was wrapped in a blanket and attended to by paramedics as she recounted her harrowing experience. We need to see that USB, said one of the detectives, looking at the small device that Sophia clutched tightly. With trembling hands, Sophia handed it to him. Please, there are more children there. You have to save them. The detective nodded gravely. We will. You're safe now, and thanks to you, we're going to save many more. As they took her to an ambulance, Sophia looked up at the night sky. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt a glimmer of hope. She had escaped, and now, maybe, she could help others do the same. But she knew her struggle was not over. The memories of the clinic, the faces of the other children, the conversations she had heard, all of it would haunt her. And there was still the question of who the people behind all this were, and how high this network of corruption and cruelty went. Sophia closed her eyes as the ambulance drove away, taking her toward an uncertain but free future. She had survived, and now she had a purpose, to make sure that no other child would have to go through what she had. The road would be difficult, but Sophia was determined. The nightmare at the clinic was over, but her fight for justice was just beginning. Sophia woke up with a start, her heart pounding. For a moment, panic seized her as she didn't recognize her surroundings, but then she remembered, she was in the hospital, safe. A nurse entered, smiling kindly. Good morning, Sophia. How are you feeling today? Sophia sat up slowly. Better, I think. Have they found the other children? The nurse's smile faltered. The police are working on it. Try not to worry too much, okay? But Sophia couldn't stop worrying. The faces of the other children in the clinic haunted her dreams. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Detective Ramirez, the officer in charge of her case. Hello, Sophia, he greeted, sitting down next to her bed. How are you? Sophia looked at him intently. Have they found the clinic? Are the other children safe? Ramirez sighed, rubbing his forehead. Sophia, when we got to the place you pointed out, it was empty. It looks like they moved quickly after your escape. What? Sophia felt her blood run cold. But the USB, the evidence. The USB contained valuable information, Ramirez nodded. But much of it was encrypted. Our technicians are working on it. Sophia clenched her fists, frustrated. There must be something more we can do. Ramirez looked at her sympathetically. Sophia, you've been very brave. But now you need to rest and recover. We take care of, no. Sophia interrupted. I can't just sit here while those children are still in danger. There must be something we've missed. The detective looked thoughtful. Well, there is something. We found a series of numbers and letters in one of the files. It seems to be some kind of code, but we haven't been able to decipher it. Sophia leaned forward, interested. Can I see it? Ramirez hesitated, but finally took a piece of paper from his folder. You shouldn't be more involved, but, here you go. Sophia studied the paper intensely. The numbers and letters seemed random at first, but then she noticed a pattern. Wait, this looks like, she murmured, her mind working quickly. It's an address. But it's encoded. Ramirez looked at her in surprise. Are you sure? Sophia nodded excitedly. Yes, look. If we replace each number with its corresponding letter in the alphabet. They worked together for the next hour, deciphering the code. Finally, a clear address emerged. Oak Street, 1542, Ramirez read. It's on the outskirts of the city. Sophia looked at him determinedly. We have to go there. Now, Ramirez shook his head. Sophia, you can't. It's too dangerous and you're still recovering. But I know that place, insisted Sophia. I can help. Please, detective. You can't just stay here and do nothing. Ramirez looked at her for a long moment, clearly conflicted. Finally, he said. All right, but you'll stay in the car with an officer while we investigate. Understood? Sophia nodded quickly. Yes, I promise. Hours later, Sophia was in the back of a police car, her heart pounding as they approached the address. The building looked abandoned, with boarded-up windows and weeds growing uncontrollably. "Stay here," Ramirez ordered before getting out of the car with his team. Sophia watched anxiously as the officers surrounded the building. Minutes passed that felt like hours. Suddenly, a movement in one of the windows caught her attention. Without thinking twice, Sophia got out of the car and ran toward the building. "Sophia, no," shouted the officer guarding her, but she was already far away. Sophia found a back entrance and slipped inside. The interior was dark and dusty, but she could hear muffled voices in the distance. Following the sounds, she reached a slightly open door. What she saw on the other side took her breath away. It was a room full of computers and medical equipment. On the screens, she could see images of children, their names, and prices. "It can't be," she whispered, horrified. "What are you doing here?" A cold voice startled her. Sophia turned to find herself face to face with Dr. Mendez. His smile was cruel, and his eyes shone with malice. "You're a very persistent girl, Sophia," he said, approaching slowly. "But you've made a big mistake coming here." Sophia backed away, desperately looking for an exit. "The police are outside." "It's over, Doctor." Mendez laughed. "Do you think that stops me? I have connections you can't imagine, girl. This is much bigger than you or me." Suddenly, there were shouts and the sound of doors being broken down. The police were entering. Mendez cursed and ran toward a hidden door in the wall. Sophia, without thinking, followed him. She found herself in a narrow hallway that led to a small room. There, to her horror, she saw several children connected to machines, unconscious. "No!" Sophia screamed, running towards them. Mendez grabbed her arm. "You don't understand, Sophia. This is for the greater good. These children will save lives." Sophia looked at him in disgust. "At the cost of their own? This is monstrous." At that moment, Ramirez and his team burst into the room. "Police! Hands up!" Mendez, seeing himself cornered, let go of Sophia and slowly raised his hands. "Detective, this is a misunderstanding. I can explain." Ramirez looked at him with fury. "Save it for the judge. You're under arrest." While they handcuffed Mendez, Sophia ran to the children. "They need help. Quickly." Paramedics entered and began attending to the children. Sophia watched, tears running down her cheeks. "Sophia," Ramirez approached her. "What you did was incredibly dangerous. But, thanks to you, we've saved these children and dismantled an organ trafficking network." Sophia nodded, feeling exhausted but relieved. "Will they be okay?" "We'll do everything we can," assured Ramirez. "Now, let's get you out of here." As they left the building, Sophia saw the children being taken on stretchers to the ambulances. Their hearts were beating, their lives saved just in time. But something in Mendez's eyes as they put him in the police car unsettled her. This wasn't over, she felt it in her bones. Days later, Sophia was back in the hospital, recovering both physically and emotionally. The other rescued children were on the same floor, and she spent a lot of time visiting them, offering comfort and understanding that only someone who had been through the same thing could give. One afternoon, while walking down the hallway, she heard a conversation that made her blood run cold. "We can't let this get out," said a voice that Sophia recognized as the hospital director's. "If the press finds out about the magnitude of this, it will be a disaster." "But sir," replied another voice, "what about the children? What about justice?" "Justice is complicated," the director replied. "There are very powerful people involved. We have to be careful." Sophia walked away silently, her mind spinning. Could the corruption reach this far? Who were these powerful people? Determined to get to the bottom of this, Sophia began to plan. She needed more information, more evidence. And she knew exactly where to look. That night, when the nurses did their final round, Sophia slipped out of her room. Carefully, she headed to the director's office. The door was locked, but Sophia had learned some tricks during her days of captivity. With a bent paperclip, she managed to unlock it. Inside, she turned on the director's computer. She needed a password. "Think, Sophia," she told herself. She looked around the desk and saw a picture of the director with his dog. On the frame, a name, Max. She tried the password, Max1234. The computer unlocked. Sofia began frantically searching through the files. Emails, reports, invoices, and then she saw it. A folder titled Project Phoenix. Inside were documents detailing a massive organ trafficking operation with names of politicians, businessmen, and celebrities involved as buyers or facilitators. It can't be, Sofia murmured, feeling nauseous. Suddenly, the light turned on. Sofia turned to see the director at the door, his face a mask of fury and fear. "What do you think you're doing?" he growled, advancing towards her. Sofia backed away. "The truth will come out. You can't keep doing this." The director laughed bitterly. "Foolish girl. You have no idea who you're messing with. This is bigger than you, than me, than all of us." Sofia looked around, searching for an exit. It has landed on a USB drive on the desk. In a quick movement, she grabbed it and connected it to the computer. "No," the director shouted, lunging at her. Sofia began copying the files as fast as she could. The director grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away from the computer. "Let go of me," Sofia shouted, struggling against his grip. At that moment, the door burst open. It was Ramirez, with several officers behind him. "Police! Freeze!" The director let go of Sofia, raising his hands. "This is a misunderstanding, officer. This girl was stealing, the only thing she was stealing was the truth," Sofia interrupted, holding the USB drive. "Here is everything. Names, dates, transactions. All of Project Phoenix." Ramirez looked from the director to Sofia, and then at the still-lit computer. "Mr. Director, you are under arrest for obstruction of justice and complicity in organ trafficking." As they took the director away, Ramirez approached Sofia. "Sofia, what you did was incredibly dangerous. But, you've uncovered something big here. Something that could save many lives." Sofia nodded, feeling the weight of what she had discovered. "What will happen now?" Ramirez sighed. "Honestly, I don't know. This involves very powerful people. It won't be easy. But we have to try, right?" insisted Sofia. "For all the children who are still out there, in danger." Ramirez looked at her with a mix of admiration and concern. "Yes, Sofia. We will try. But I need you to promise me something." "What?" "No more solo adventures. This is dangerous, Sofia. You need to trust us to handle this." Sofia hesitated for a moment but then nodded. "I promise. But I want to be involved. I want to help." Ramirez smiled tiredly. "I don't think there's any way to keep you out of this, right?" "All right. We will work on this together. But carefully, okay?" Sofia nodded, feeling for the first time since her kidnapping that she was making a real difference. As they left the office, Sofia looked out the window. The dawn was breaking on the horizon, bringing with it the promise of a new day and the hope for justice. But in the back of her mind, Sofia knew this was just the beginning. Project Phoenix was vast and powerful, and dismantling it wouldn't be easy. There would be more dangers, more secrets to uncover. However, now she had allies. She had a purpose. And most importantly, she had the truth on her side. Sofia clenched the USB drive in her hand, feeling the weight of the information it contained. This small device could change everything, could save lives. "I'm ready," she said quietly, more to herself than to Ramirez. And so, with the rising sun illuminating her path, Sofia took the first step in her new mission, dismantling Project Phoenix and saving all the children she could. The battle was just beginning, but Sofia was determined to fight until the end. For herself, for the children she had met, and for all those who had not yet been rescued. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Sofia found herself at the center of a massive investigation, working closely with Ramirez and his team. One morning, while they were reviewing the files of Project Phoenix, Ramirez entered the conference room with a somber expression. "Sofia, we have a problem," he said, closing the door behind him. Sofia looked up from the documents she was studying. "What happened?" Ramirez sat down heavily. "I just received a call from above. They want us to close the investigation." "What? They can't do that." Sofia exclaimed, jumping to her feet. Apparently, they can, Ramirez replied, rubbing his temples. There are political pressures. Very powerful people are pulling strings. Sofia felt anger rising within her. So we're just going to give up? Let them get away with it. Ramirez looked at her steadily. I didn't say that. He said they want us to close the investigation. He didn't say we would. A smile slowly formed on Sofia's face. What do you have in mind, detective? It's risky, Ramirez warned. If we're caught, we could lose our jobs. He could go to jail. And if we do nothing, more children will suffer, Sofia replied firmly. Ramirez nodded. You're right. All right, here's what we'll do. For the next few hours, they planned their next move. Using the information from Project Phoenix's files, they identified a possible location for another clandestine clinic. It's an unauthorized undercover operation, Ramirez explained. We can't bring official backup. It will be dangerous. Sofia looked at him with determination. I'm ready. That night, Sofia and Ramirez met in an empty parking lot. Ramirez arrived in an unmarked car, dressed in civilian clothes. Are you sure about this? He asked one last time as Sofia got into the car. She nodded. More than ever. They drove in silence to the outskirts of the city. The building they were looking for was an old abandoned factory, but there were signs of recent activity. Stay close and follow my instructions, Ramirez whispered as they sneaked in. They found an unguarded side entrance and slipped inside. The interior was dark, but they could hear voices and the hum of machinery in the distance. Following the sound, they reached a closed door. Ramirez drew his gun and nodded at Sofia. She took a deep breath and opened the door. The scene that greeted them was horrifying. Children on stretchers, connected to machines. Doctors in masks moving among them. Police! Ramirez shouted, aiming his weapon. Everyone freeze. Chaos erupted. The doctors tried to flee, but Ramirez managed to subdue several. Sofia ran to the children, disconnecting equipment and trying to wake them up. Sofia, watch out! Ramirez shouted. She turned just in time to see a man in a lab coat lunging at her with a syringe. Sofia dodged the attack, causing the man to stumble and fall. No more, Sofia shouted, kicking the syringe away. It's over. Ramirez handcuffed the last of the doctors and took out his phone. I need to make a call. This time, they won't be able to cover it up. While Ramirez was on the phone, Sofia approached one of the children who was beginning to wake up. It's okay, she said softly, taking his hand. You're safe now. The child looked at her with scared eyes. Who are you? Sofia smiled gently. Someone who went through the same thing as you. And now I'm here to help you. Soon, the place was filled with police officers and paramedics. Sofia watched as they took the children out on stretchers, feeling both exhausted and euphoric. Ramirez approached her. We did it, Sofia. These teammates, they won't be able to hide it. The press is already on its way. Sofia nodded, tears of relief running down her cheeks. Is it over? Ramirez placed a hand on her shoulder. This chapter is. But I'm afraid Project Phoenix is bigger than we thought. This is just the beginning. Sofia looked around, at the children being rescued, at the criminals being arrested. She felt a renewed determination growing within her. Then we'll keep fighting, she said firmly. Until all the children are safe. Ramirez smiled proudly. I expected nothing less from you, Sofia. But remember, you're not alone in this anymore. Sofia nodded, feeling for the first time in a long time part of something bigger than herself. She had a purpose, she had allies, and more importantly, she had hope. As they left the building, dawn was beginning to break on the horizon. Sofia took a deep breath, savoring the fresh morning air. This was just the beginning of her fight against Project Phoenix, but Sofia was ready. She had faced her fears, had challenged the powerful, and had discovered a strength within her that she didn't know she had. The road ahead would be difficult, full of dangers and challenges, but Sofia knew that, with every child they saved, with every criminal they brought to justice, they would be one step closer to completely dismantling this organ trafficking network. And she would be there, on the front lines, fighting until the end. Let's go, Sofia said, looking at Ramirez. We have a lot of work to do. Together, they walked toward the new day, ready to face whatever challenge Project Phoenix could throw at them. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, victory seemed possible. And Sophia, the girl who had been kidnapped and had now become a fighter for justice, was determined to see that they come, no matter what it cost. The months following the discovery of the second clinic were a whirlwind of activity. Sophia, now a key figure in the fight against Project Phoenix, worked tirelessly alongside Detective Ramirez and a special investigative team. One afternoon, while reviewing new leads in Ramirez's office, Sophia noticed something strange in one of the documents. "Detective, look at this," she said, pointing to a series of transactions. "These numbers, there is a pattern." Ramirez leaned over the paper, frowning. "You're right. But what does it mean?" Sophia bit her lip, thoughtful. I think it's some kind of code. Like the one they used in the first clinic." They spent the next few hours deciphering the code, and what they discovered left them breathless. "It can't be," Ramirez murmured, running a hand through his hair. Sophia nodded, her face pale. "It's a list of names. Politicians, judges, even the Attorney General." "This is bigger than we thought," Ramirez said, his voice tense. "If this is true, Project Phoenix has infiltrated the highest levels of government." Sophia looked at him, determination shining in her eyes. "Then we have to expose them." "All of them." Ramirez sighed heavily. "It won't be easy, Sophia. These people have power, influence. They try to silence us." "They've tried before," Sophia replied firmly, "and they failed. We can't give up now." Ramirez looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "You're right. But we'll need help." In the following weeks, Sophia and Ramirez worked in secret, gathering evidence and building their case. They reached out to trusted journalists, brave lawyers, and incorruptible police officers. Finally, the day they had been waiting for arrived. Sophia found herself in a conference room, surrounded by reporters and cameras. Ramirez was by her side, a comforting presence. "Are you ready for this?" he asked quietly. Sophia took a deep breath. "I have to be." She approached the podium, the weight of what she was about to reveal pressing on her shoulders. The cameras began to record, and Sophia started to speak. "A year ago, I was kidnapped and taken to a clandestine clinic." She began, her voice trembling slightly at first, but gaining strength with each word. Over the next hour, Sophia unraveled the complex web of Project Phoenix, revealing names, dates, and evidence. The reporters listened in shock, their pens moving frantically over their notepads. When she finished, there was a moment of stunned silence before the room erupted in questions. "How did you obtain this information? Do you have proof of these accusations? What do you expect to happen now?" Sophia answered each question calmly and clearly, backed by Ramirez and the legal team they had assembled. Meanwhile, in government and corporate offices throughout the city, chaos erupted. Phones rang incessantly, documents were hastily destroyed, and contingency plans were put into action. In the following days, Sophia's revelations dominated the headlines. Social media exploded with outrage and calls for justice. Massive demonstrations filled the streets, demanding immediate action. But the fight was far from over. Those implicated in Project Phoenix struck back with all their power, attempting to discredit Sophia and her allies. One night, while Sophia was preparing for another interview, she received a call from Ramirez. "Sophia, we have a problem," he said, his voice tense. "They've issued a warrant for my arrest. False accusations, but..." "What? They can't do that!" Sophia exclaimed. "They can, and they have," Ramirez replied. "Listen, Sophia. I need you to stay strong. Don't let them silence you." "But what will happen to you?" Sophia asked, her voice trembling. "I'll turn myself in," Ramirez said. "We'll fight this in court. But I need you to keep going, understand?" Sophia nodded, even though she knew Ramirez couldn't see her. "I will. I promise." The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Sophia found herself at the center of a media storm, defending her cause on every available platform. But for every step forward, the defenders of Project Phoenix seemed to push them 2 steps back. It was then that Sophia received an unexpected call. "Hello," she answered cautiously. "Sophia," said a familiar voice. It's Marta. Do you remember me? From the clinic. Sofia gasped. Marta. Are you alright? Where are you? I'm safe, Marta replied. But that's not important now. I have information, Sofia. Information that can end Project Phoenix once and for all. Sofia's heart pounded. What kind of information? I can't say over the phone, Marta said. But we need to meet. Tonight. Sofia hesitated. It could be a trap. But if Marta really had crucial information. All right, she finally said. Where? That night, Sofia found herself in a deserted park, her heart pounding as she waited. Finally, a figure emerged from the shadows. Sofia, Marta said, approaching. Marta, Sofia responded, hugging the other girl. I'm so glad you're okay. Marta smiled weakly. Thanks to you. And now, it's my turn to help. She pulled a USB drive from her pocket. Here it is. The complete list of everyone involved in Project Phoenix. It includes recordings, documents, everything. Sofia took the USB with trembling hands. Marta, this is, how did you get it? My father, Marta replied, her voice breaking. It was part of this, but when he realized what was really happening, he decided to do the right thing. He gave me this before he. Sofia hugged her again, understanding what Marta couldn't say. With the new evidence in hand, Sofia and her team launched a final attack against Project Phoenix. The following days were a frenzy of legal and media activity. Finally, a week later, Sofia found herself in front of the cameras once more, this time with a triumphant smile on her face. Today, she announced, I can say with certainty that Project Phoenix has been dismantled. Those irresponsible are being arrested as we speak. The room erupted in applause and cheers. Sofia saw Ramirez in the crowd, free and proudly smiling. But our fight doesn't end here, Sofia continued. As long as there are children in danger, as long as there are injustices to combat, we will keep fighting. Because now we know that together, we can make a difference. As the cameras kept flashing, Sofia felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. The road had been long and difficult, but finally, she had achieved what once seemed impossible. Later that night, as Sofia prepared to sleep, her phone beeped with a message from Ramirez. We did it, Sofia. I'm proud of you. Rest, you've earned it. Tomorrow, we start the next chapter. Sofia smiled, looking out the window at the city she had helped save. She knew there would be more battles ahead, more injustices to fight. But for now, she allowed herself to enjoy the victory. Project Phoenix had fallen, and with it, a new hope had risen. A hope for a more just, safer world for all children, and Sofia would be there, on the front lines, ready to face any challenge the future might bring. Day in.